Well, hello everyone, and thanks for attending this session as a part of our animal welfare virtual think tank all week long. And it's our inaugural Group Thinkers Live. And I probably should take just a moment, and introduce myself as well as my guest and explain to you exactly what you've gotten yourself into today. So, Group Thinkers is the podcast produced by RKD Group, and I'm Justin McCord, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing and the host of the Group Thinkers podcast. You can find that podcast on anywhere that you listen to podcasts, whether or not that's through Spotify or Stitcher, Apple, SoundCloud, so on and so forth. And so as a part of our virtual think tank, we wanted to bring an edition of Group Thinkers live to you. So this is live, happening right now. If there are animals that jump onto a screen or into our view, or small animals, also known as children, then give us a little bit of grace on that. But we are working live, and so we're excited to have you. I'm excited to have Erica Waasdorp with me. Erica, how are you today?
I am good, thanks.
Very
Great to
good.
be here.
Eric and I know each other well. We've had similar chats on this format before, so this is exciting. My guest, Erica, is very well known in the nonprofit marketing space, as well as in the animal welfare space. Erica, I'm going to dote on you for just a moment with an introduction. So Erica is the president of A Direct Solution, but she's also a certified master trainer for AFP. She is a very regular speaker and content contributor to a number of blogs and publications. I wanted to list them out, but I didn't have enough space on my legal pad to put all of them, Erica. She is also an expert on monthly giving. And by an expert, I mean she actually wrote the book. And so you can see there on screen the purple image of monthly giving, The Sleeping Giant. That is available on Amazon and other places where you can pick up a copy, and it's well worth your time. She's also a co-author of multiple ebooks on the same subject. And so, Erica, here we are today to get to talk about monthly giving.
Great. Yeah, you know me, I'm passionate about it, so it's really,
you
really great. Yeah. Yeah.
You are, just in terms of a couple of housekeeping things for our viewing and listening audience. We do want you to engage in this. Yes, this is a podcast, but we want you to engage in this along the way. So on your screens, you're going to see the nice little go-to format, and there's a little area where you can send in your questions and comments by clicking on the section of the panel where you see the arrow pointing, and the amazing Caitlin Christopher, who is producing us behind the scenes, will jump in with those questions as time allows. But with no further ado, I want to get right into the meat of it. And so, Erica, I know that I gave an introduction, but I'd love for you to just share with our audience a little bit of your journey and what brought you to launching A Direct Solution, but more so your journey into the expertise that you have on monthly giving.
Right. So I'm actually from the Netherlands originally. I moved here 27 years ago, and in Europe I was responsible for a lot of like direct marketing. Worked for Reader's Digest, different publishing firms. When I moved to this country, I was married to an American. Moved here, I started working for International Fund for Animal Welfare, big animal welfare organization. And there I quickly took on their monthly giving program. So I'd worked with loyalty programs in the past, but now this was another example of a loyalty program that had actually been started a number of years ago, and that had migrated down from Canada. So their Canadian office has actually started that. So I took that on, grew it, and really saw the tremendous power of monthly giving. So and ever since I worked at IFA, I worked for another agency, and then I started my own agency now 17 years ago, focusing on direct mail and monthly giving. So and I wrote the book Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant because I was at a conference and I saw all these books about annual fund and major gifts, but there was nothing on monthly giving. And I found out that the what people consider the real Bible of monthly giving was the Harvey McKinnon, The Hidden Gold book.
Hmm.
That had been written in like 1999. So there really wasn't anything. So I said, okay, well, I want to write the next chapter, right? So that's what I did, and I'm working on my next chapter now. So because so much has changed
Yeah.
since then. So since 2012, since I wrote the book. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
we are more than a
yep,
handful of iPhones removed from the publishing of that. So we'll be excited to see that next chapter and next
yep,
edition
yep.
come to life. And I do love that you're passionate about monthly giving. It is a unique element of nonprofit marketing. And so I would love for you to share the state of monthly giving, meaning where and how and what does monthly giving look like for the nonprofit community as a whole right now, and specifically within the animal welfare space? uh, what is the state of monthly giving?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's actually not that many statistics available, sadly. So whenever it's there, I'm trying to get my hold on my hand on it. So if you look at like slide 5, Caitlin, if you can pull that up, that is like there's a couple of statistics providing organizations and companies actually that I look at that I track. So one is the Aminor Strategic, which always the benchmarks, which always looks at online gifts, right? And
Hmm.
where are sustainers and where are the types of organizations. So again, you have to realize this is based on about 300 organizations, right?
Hmm.
Nationwide. But you see there that sustainers, monthly donors are like make up 17% of online gifts, and it's growing. It continues to grow, and I mean, it's started growing especially since 2016, basically the Trump
Hmm.
bump, as they call it, right?
Yes.
So that really has made a difference. But you see there that the wildlife and animal welfare, last year was actually 20%. Now it's 16% of online gifts. But of course, you have to realize that some of these other organizations have jumped on the bandwagon. They have grown. So overall, that obviously makes a little bit of a difference, right? So that's one example. The next slide actually then shows you the percentage of active donors. So I think that may be especially relevant for you guys there, the animal welfare organizations, because I think you probably find that animal welfare organizations tend to be, somewhat leaders in this. They're, public television, public radio, but also animal welfare organizations really kind of adopted monthly giving very early on. So, this chart is like from Blackbot, the Sustainer benchmarking study. Now, this is based on 33 organizations. So
Smaller
again,
sample set.
smaller sample, right? But they're big organizations.
Hmm.
So, but it just kind of helps you identify like, well, what could the percentage of your active donors be, as like how many, how could you have like a percentage of your active donors turn them into sustainers? What's a percentage that you can expect, right? Because people ask me that all the time. Well, should it be 5% of my active donors? Should it be 10, be 15? Again, it's all over the map. I mean, ultimately, I always say more, right? So it's always going to be more, right? But if you look
Right.
at this fact, like on average, like 16% of active donors are monthly donors.
Yeah, and you
So
mentioned since 2016 that, with the Trump bump, but also that you can track back in terms of consumer confidence and consumer trends, that's when you had the real thrust of subscription
yes,
mentality going into the market.
Netflix. Yep.
Yes. So with, between Netflix and other streaming, or, signing up to get whatever delivered to you on a monthly basis, a box of some sort of curated
Hmm. Yep.
pieces of whatever it is
Absolutely.
that you're interested in, being delivered to you. That works in line with us as nonprofits being able to capitalize on that subscription mentality to drive growth and better adoption of recurring giving.
Right. Right. And I think it's that. The other part of it is like, in conjunction with that, is like most donor bases, most online payment platforms, they've also added the recurring giving option, the
Right.
monthly giving option, which that did not really exist in 2012,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So much has, I mean, it's almost like it's almost more difficult now as an organization to figure out, well, what platform should I be using because there's so many of them, right?
Right.
So that's a big factor as well. So it has
Yeah.
become a lot easier to do it. And the more people, the more organizations talk about monthly giving, the more comfortable donors get,
Mm.
right? So I think that's just another thing. I mean, monthly giving is not just something from the middle aged people. It's like a lot of older people are comfortable with it as well.
Right.
And then of course the younger people are very comfortable with it. But
Extremely comfortable with it. So it's good that it's a growing trend. We like
hmm
that
hmm
because we like being able to count on this revenue. That said, how do we, in terms of where we are now, how do we take this and grow our monthly giving program? So contextually, many of our friends who are joining from animal welfare organizations have small staffs, small marketing staffs, and maybe marketing is one of the six or umpteen different hats that they wear. And they may have been sold on the idea that, oh, all you have to do is have this checkbox and then just let it run in the background. And that's not going to produce the type of growth that we want to see. So what are the bestest
hmm
practices to grow a monthly giving program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the tick boxes are certainly, I wouldn't necessarily negate them, right?
Right.
So I think it's, I mean, I was literally just writing a blog about it today. It's like it's really two things. One is you really, like you want to make it like an animal welfare person last week said, you want to make it a thing, right? So monthly
Mm.
giving should become a thing in your organization, right? So make it the thing for 2020, right? So just kind of like everybody is focused on that. It's not a one shot deal. So you can't be saying, oh, let's do an email today and let's see how it goes. And then we're not going to do anything till next year, right? So it's really like more like a drip by drip. I mean, I call it like a chipping away at it. It's a drip by drip type of approach where you can do a lot with very little time
Mm.
within the things that you're doing right now. You just have to kind of realize and remember that it would be important to add something in there. To give you an example, I'm just looking up the slide number for that. Slide 12, right? So one of the organizations I work with, um, they didn't have a lot of like monthly donors, and they said, well, let's add a button. So every email they send, they have a button. The one is make a one-time donation. The second one is become a monthly donor. And they've already quadrupled their number of sustainers by just doing that, right? So it costs you nothing to do it in a minute to set it up, right? So that's just one example of if you're not already doing this, what do you got to lose by doing that? Now, if you
Yeah.
look at like slide 11, this is not necessarily an animal welfare organization, but what they did was they just, and this is actually a COVID email, but they just literally really put it right out there, like, will you give monthly to support us? And then
Mhm.
below it is the yes, I'll make a one-time gift, right? Again, it doesn't cost you much time or effort to do it. What do you have to lose by trying it? Right. So even if you get 5 new monthly donors, maybe two, but it's two more than you had yesterday. Right. So, and if you see that it works, then you can just say, look, every time I send an email, I'll have both buttons in there, right? Because it's just literally a matter of like having the two buttons. So, but you got to want to do it, right?
Yeah,
So
you like you said, you have to make it a thing, right? So anything that we determine it has to become a thing, it's got to be top of mind and present in every strategy,
right.
in every planning meeting. It's got to come up in every conversation in your staff meetings, in our meetings, that teams have with you. That it needs to be prioritized and
Yes. Yep.
presented and thought
Right.
about and brought up, so that, like you said, it's not, you're not going to build it with a one shot campaign. It's got to be something
It's,
that is
yeah.
regular, focused,
Right.
and I love, and we've talked about this before, you got to chip away, just
Yep. It's
chip
drip
by
by
chip.
drip, chip by chip.
Right.
It's really, that's really what it is. And again, I mean, I'm a cat person, right? I didn't my cat's not coming here because she would be all over me right now. But so it's really, you could have, again, and I've seen it for organizations. You can have a cute cat video, you can have a cute puppy video, and having the two buttons underneath it, and you're getting at monthly donors, right?
Hmm.
So because people want to help, right? So you just gotta make it easy. And what I like about the two buttons too is that people are very specific as to how they want to help,
Hmm.
right? So, because sometimes you see like a donation form, like an online donation form. You have the one-time gift, and you always have the recurring giving option on there. And I know some people say, "Oh, you always have to preset that monthly option," and I kind of like sort of recommend them not to do it.
Hmm.
I always want to make sure that somebody is very deliberate about becoming a monthly donor,
Right. Right.
because you're going to keep them longer if they
Yeah.
are committed. So
So
I think that's
the
one thing.
biggest thing is make it a thing, right? Make
Make
it a
it a thing.
focus, make it a priority. It, if we're saying make it a priority, what does that mean for the time requirement?
Well, I mean, if you look at some of these things that I just showed you, right? And add in maybe a tick box on a reply form in the direct mail, um, an hour a week. You can do a lot with an hour a week, really. You just got to look and saying, "Hey, what do I got planned for my week, for what are my communications? Oh, I've got my e-news, and I've got my, program message, whatever it is, right? Look at your schedule as what you're sending to your donors, or your adopters, or what have you, and to say, where can I got to make sure I have that second button in there, and maybe I want to test something, so that's it really doesn't have to take a lot of time, because you have the tools.
Hmm.
You have your payment processing
Hmm.
in place. You have your donor base in place, right? In many cases. And all of that is already set up for monthly giving.
Yeah.
So I think that, of course, as you grow, you know, I think as you grow, I, highly recommend that you sit down that 1 hour a week and say, okay, let me take a look. How many monthly donors do I have now?
Hmm.
And what is their annual value?
Hmm.
So don't say, oh, they're $10 a month, whatever. No. Oh, I have 200 monthly donors, and what is their annual value, right?
Hmm.
So, and if you do that every week or every month, and then you want to share it with everybody around you, hey, we just like, we're raising XYZ money, from these monthly donors. And people are like, wow, I had no idea. Oh, that's great. That's exciting, right? So, and that's another sort of like motivator to keep growing, right? So in the handouts that RKD put together, like there's actually like I call it the monthly donor annualizer.
Hmm.
So it's, you just plug in what's the number, what's and you'll be like, blown away, because a lot of times when I ask people, I say, well, how is your monthly donor program doing? And they're like, oh, how much is it worth? I don't know.
Right. Right.
So you'll be amazed. You'll be absolutely amazed.
Yeah,
So
and for our friends tuning in, we do have some resources that we're going to provide to you. Some things that Erica has put together, and some things that we'll be sending you. So be on the lookout for those, including the annual donor annualizer. I do think that, like you said, Erica, small steps can help make it a thing. Small ways of communicating, making sure that it's a priority in your communication, and that doesn't mean that it has to absorb the bulk of your week or your day, so on and so forth. So we're down the road, we're growing our monthly giving, we're chipping away, we're adding to that volume, we're looking at the annual value of those donors on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Now we want to make sure that we're keeping these folks engaged. And so my question for you is, how the heck do you do that? How do you keep these folks engaged? Because we're taught that no, we don't want to communicate to them too much because we don't want them to remember that they've signed up to give us a monthly gift. So how do you keep them engaged? What's the right mix of
Yeah, I mean,
cadence, channel, message,
yeah.
intentionality?
So again, it's all like, I mean, the reality is every organization is different, right? So to start there, like, let's kind of map out, what are you sending to your donors now, to your regular donors, your non-sustainers, right? What are you sending now? Okay. What is it that you think your monthly donors would get excited about, right? As well, right? So what is it that you really think, oh my God, the sustainer, they must get that, right? Absolutely. Like if it's a calendar, or if it's I don't know, a card that you send out, or whatever it is that you say, hey, we're sending this out to a membership card, so whatever it is that you're sending to your donors now, you want to say, oh, that's number one. I want to make sure that my monthly donors get that as well, right?
Hmm.
So just kind of look at what you're already doing, start there, and then, if you're sending a newsletter, absolutely send your newsletter to your monthly donors, right? Absolutely. And you don't have to create something really special for them yet, unless you get really, really big, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can get around, like sending out the regular newsletter, because your donors give monthly to you because they care.
Hmm.
They know what you do, they love what you do, they want to support you, and monthly happens to be a way that is convenient for them. But the number one reason why they give monthly is because they want to support you, and they love the stories. And animal people are, I mean, sort of what I've seen over the years, and I've been doing this for quite a while, for 35 years. Is animal people love to hear animal stories. So if you're sending out a couple of appeals a year, you may want to send all of them to them, but include a laser message. Thank you so much for your ongoing monthly support. I wanted to tell you about Scruffy, right?
Right.
So that's all it takes,
Yeah.
is
Well,
like,
and to
do
your
some,
point,
yeah,
just, we support someone. So monthly is a way to choose to support, but we support because we care. And I want to be reminded that I care. For the
mhm,
organizations that I support monthly, send me more. I want to hear the stories. I want to see the
yeah,
impact. I want to
yeah.
know about the way that my gift is making a difference. And so I would challenge everyone to avoid fear of fall off,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And more
yeah.
think of it as uh, it, that these relationships are special, and the most special relationships are the ones where you're the most intentional and frequent in good communication.
Right. So that's one. I think the other thing is, in your emails, right? So you can just like start the email with like, thanks so much for your ongoing monthly support. You
Mhm.
really make a difference. And then let me tell you about Scruffy, right? And if you want to pull up slide 18, for example, um, you can see, because this is actually really, really interesting, right? So it's to the point of like, you want your monthly donors care, you want to engage with them, is you see the difference here. Like, we broke out the monthly donors, right, and the regular donors, right? So they just
Mhm.
have a different tag or group or segment, however you that call that in your email program. And you see that the monthly donors, the open rates was like twice that of the regular donors, and the click-through rate, this was actually like a Giving Tuesday Now appeal. So the click-through rate was like twice that, about twice that of the regular donors as well.
Right, right.
So again, so they want to help, right? So anytime you have a match, anytime you have a Giving Tuesday or some Giving Day or something special, cute puppies video, things uplifting stuff, send it to your monthly donors. But kind of like have that little just a little recognition about the fact that that they're giving monthly, right?
Acknowledge,
So
acknowledge,
acknowledge that.
acknowledge, acknowledge that you know who they
Yes.
are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
So,
I mean, sorry, one more thing.
mhm,
I get really
sure.
excited about this.
No,
So
please.
one more thing is again, if you're sending out thank you cards or, I mean, just include your monthly donors every now and then. If you're making thank you calls, include your monthly donors in that as well. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
they
so
want to
important.
hear from you unless they tell you that they don't. So
Right. Right.
We have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Um, it says, is this a good time to focus on monthly donors? Would people be more likely to cancel monthly subscriptions in a recession?
Yeah, so
great.
we've heard mixed messages
Yes.
about this, Erica,
Yes.
that
Yes.
some folks may be seeing a decrease in retention or an immediate fall off. So what are the best practices,
Yeah.
and what should we do?
So it's interesting. So I was tracking on like what was going on in the UK, right? And the
Mhm.
UK has a huge number of monthly donors.
Yes.
And what they found was in March, they saw a bigger drop off of monthly donors. So right as the COVID-19 was hitting and people had to stay home and all that, they saw this drop off in monthly donors. In April, it's back to the drop-offs were very similar to what they saw in normal days, right? So it's just
Mhm.
that immediate like, help, what's going on, right? So what a lot of organizations did in March was they put like a so-called save script in place,
Hmm.
and that's like a slide. I gotta put what the heck are my glasses like 24. Sorry. Um, so 24 is like a save script, right? Where if a donor calls and says, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to cancel, then you can see if they're willing to, number one, go down. So maybe they were giving 25 bucks a month. Maybe they're willing to go down to like say $5 a month, right? So you keep them. Or maybe they would be willing to go on a pause. So, and I've heard great results from those organizations that offered this pause. So they were able to, I was reading some statistics today, it was like 25 to 30% of those people that were ready to cancel, they were able to save
Wow.
just by talking to them and say, okay, well, I understand, would you be willing to just go on a pause for a couple of months? And then if they say, well, no, I still don't want to do that, then you offer them the option to just still continue to receive updates,
Yeah.
right? So you can go back and get them. But yeah, so I mean, I was looking at a couple of organizations, and that March timeframe was indeed they saw some dips, but then in April was pretty much normal. And then some organizations had donors call them and they wanted to upgrade.
Yeah.
I've seen organizations that have gone out with emails where they were asking donors to upgrade or maybe convert to a different payment type that would save the organization a little bit more money. So and again, all of that worked. So
Yeah.
and again, now is a good time to ask for monthly gifts, because
Right.
especially because you can say it may be easier on your budget
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are some truths in philanthropic giving. The reality is that charitable giving in the US has been at roughly 2% of GDP for over 4 decades, right? So it hasn't changed. Even with the Great Recession 2008, it didn't change. So it follows GDP. So we could be looking at in the future months
Hmm.
a decline, and some folks are saying 5 to 6% decline in GDP. And so you could have a further reduction of the number of households that are giving. But something that we know that's true is that people want to solve problems, and the
Yeah.
problems still exist. So as long as the problem still exists, there are people who want to support it. And I've seen more offers for monthly right
Yep.
now and in the last
Yes.
12 weeks than
Yes.
I can recall from previous. And I find it refreshing because to me, here's an easy way that you can help on an ongoing basis.
Yep.
So I would
Absolutely.
say,
Yep.
no, it's not a bad time to focus on
So,
it. I think it's a good
right.
time to chip away.
Yeah. I mean, that example that I just showed you, this organization had never done that before. They got 40 new monthly donors from that email where they had the 2 buttons in there.
Right.
So I was like, that's great, right? And that
That's
was
awesome.
right in, the middle of COVID. So
Right. Right.
so again, you won't know until you ask, and
Hmm.
you have nothing to lose really by doing it. So
Yeah.
I mean,
The beauty of direct marketing. We can learn and we can sometimes succeed and sometimes fail and learn from those as well. So we've talked about engaging your donors. What about upgrading? That's another facet of monthly giving that, especially as direct marketers, we get excited on an annual basis of trying to improve that annual value. What advice or recommendations would you offer around upgrades?
yeah, so again, I mean, I can, if you want to pull up slide 30, that's an example of an animal organization that they always call me and it's like, Erica, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, yeah, go for it, Larry. So and he does it, right? So this is an organization, and they said, look, we don't have our event, we had to cancel it, so will you consider an upgrade, or even like will you consider like converting to a different payment type? And they got several people to do it, right? And they had never asked for upgrades in the email before.
Hmm.
So if you have an existing monthly donor program, I recommend that you at least try an upgrade once a year.
Hmm.
You have not, again, you have nothing to lose as long as you do it right, where you want to recognize that that they're giving monthly, you want to be really appreciative, but you also have to build a case, just like anything we do in fundraising, right? Where you say, look, hey, cat food has gotten more expensive, litter, whatever it is that, it takes more. Hey, we had to cancel a couple events, so we need to make up because we want to continue to take care of the cats and dogs and, all of the animals that you're taking care of, right? So, and people get that, right? So, so if they can't do it, no big deal, but if they can, they will, right? So but you certainly don't want to ask for a huge amount. You just want to
Hmm.
ask for like small increase, maybe $2 or $3, a month, something like that. And again, have multiple options on your form when you send people there, so that they can self-identify, because some people might say, oh yeah, I can do $10 more a month, so some people might say, oh, I'll double it, right? So again, but you got to show the pictures of the animals, you got to tell the little story, so that's whatever you're doing with fundraising, it's just like the only difference is that you're asking them to upgrade their monthly gift.
Yeah, to deepen their relationship with you.
Yep.
Erica, one thing that I love about this example in particular is that it, to me, shows what is a pre-COVID trend that has been accelerated because of COVID, and that's the need for authenticity in what we're communicating. I love that in this example in particular that, as you said, hey, we had to cancel our event and
Hmm.
we're all devastated because of it. And so we were thinking, and because you're a regular supporter, we wanted to reach out to you. There is
Yeah.
something that feels very transparent
Sure.
and
Sure.
vulnerable about that I think is just so important. And we're at the space to where we can be even more transparent and vulnerable, especially in our digital communications, that I love. And I think it's a
Yeah.
great way to show it.
Yeah, I think I mean, we're human beings and we're reaching out to other human beings. And I think that's so powerful, right? And I think, again, if you have the opportunity to call some of your monthly donors and call them, that's also a great time to say, look, just want to reach out, and we had to cancel our 5 events, or, whatever. And would you be willing to upgrade your monthly gift, and see what they say? I mean,
Yeah.
they'll tell you if they can't do it, but
Right.
you might be pleasantly surprised if they will, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're getting to the end of our conversation, Erica,
mhm.
and there's so many things that are pulling at our attention. And we are seeing the spontaneity of giving increase, that now all of a sudden we have a new current circumstance that's pulling at our attention, and so people are choosing, and we're going to see an increase in giving to a lot of social-based organizations that will be happening in the coming days and weeks, and probably sustained. So for our animal welfare friends, just to circle back and cement the point, what's one piece of advice that you would give on building, expanding, or increasing the sophistication of their monthly giving programs?
It's really, I mean, it's always tough to get just one piece of advice, right? But I think, again, I mean, just kind of like take a moment and set a goal. Like, if you have 50 monthly donors now, what would you like it to be by the end of the year, right? Put that really, really big on your bulletin board and say, this is the number, this is the value that I'm looking for. And then, just say, okay, well, I've got that there now. How can I chip away? How can I drip, drip, drip? And accomplish that? Where can I do something with very little investment of time and resources that is going to make a difference, right? And again, there's something powerful about writing down your goals. There's typically when you write it down, you got to write it down. You can't have it in your head, right? It sounds silly, but you put it on your bulletin board and you will accomplish that goal. Now, of course, if you have 100 monthly donors, don't write down 1,000, right? But maybe say, okay, I want to bring in 50 new monthly donors in the next year or something. Something obviously that's reasonable, right? But
Yeah.
but there's typically something about you might actually beat it, so
Yeah.
it's great. So
So
and
be
again,
intentional.
annualizing it and keep sharing that
Mm.
information with others as well. Like, hey, did you know our monthly donors are worth XYZ? And again, that example of like the Basset Rescue. I mean, he calls me up and says, Erica, hey, how can we get to 400? It's like, and it's worth a lot of money. So
Yeah. So be intentional about it. Continuously chip away and make it a thing. Think
yeah,
about the annual value and try. Don't fear testing something. Erica, you
now you can
are
try
the
everything.
best.
Yeah, yeah.
You
We
are
have
the best.
another
Yeah, go ahead,
question.
Caitlin.
Mhm.
We have another question from the audience. It says, are monthly donors generally a younger audience? Is this a good way to reach younger donors?
Yeah, I mean, for animal welfare organizations, I mean, typically donors tend to still be older in general, but monthly donors are also older, right? So they don't necessarily have to be young, but they can be. So there's lots younger monthly donors, especially if the ones that have been acquired like by street fundraising, right? Face-to-face
Right.
fundraising, so yeah, there really is not a bad age, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to give people who may otherwise not be able to give to you the opportunity to do so, right?
Yeah.
So and again, I think it's less, don't worry too much about like, wow, we want to bring in younger donors, and I mean, it's more like, how can you grow your fundraising overall with the tools that you have? And if you can bring in younger people by offering it, maybe there is a virtual event that you're doing and you have the option to follow up after and say, well, it would be really, really helpful if you did this. Or maybe you can do a quiz and you can do a follow up, try to bring in monthly donors, right? It's all about like, what can you do to keep, passing on that message, and people will do it if they're comfortable with it. So
There are some generational giving trends that we know are true, particularly in the number of causes. So the younger the donor, the more causes they support is the general uh, you know thesis around it. So going back to the silent generation, generally supporting 3 organizations annually,
mhm.
then boomers underneath them doubling that to 6, then Gen X going all the way up to 9, millennials going up to 12. So that doesn't speak to the format in which they give. Now, we do know that people who are more tech savvy
Mm-hmm.
are more likely to pull out their credit card or debit card or PayPal quicker to sign up for something that is on repeat, but that doesn't exclude the older generation. So I think that it's important to keep in mind in an audience marketing standpoint, the giving patterns and trends. It's not that they would give one time or monthly, but it's just understanding what your share of wallet might be for that audience type, and then patterning your messaging to reach that audience, not thinking about should I only pursue younger or only pursue
Mm-hmm.
owner. We all want to
Exactly.
get as many as we can,
Yes,
regardless of the
yes,
age group.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And I think animal people, I think a lot of animal welfare donors, support many more than we think they support.
Yes.
So just something to remember. So because they just love animals. And I mean, I don't even know
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
animal welfare organizations I support, but a lot. So, frankly, I don't even, I'm a monthly donor to a lot of organizations. I don't even know if it's 40 or it's a lot, so obviously I
Yeah.
do that too to learn from it, but it's a
Right.
way that I can support it, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you find as a monthly donor, it becomes easier and easier. And so you lose track over time. So Erica, you're the best. Caitlin, I know you had some elements at the end, but before we get to those kind of wrap up things or any other questions, Erica, if anyone has a follow-up that they want to reach out to you, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's like a slide, I think slide number 33. Um, but I say actually we want to pull up like slide number 32. I think that's a good one. So I love that little quote. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now, right?
Yeah.
So that's all like, hey, start chipping away at it. And the next one is my contact information. Um, and I think you're going to get the slides, so
Yes.
you have some other stuff, so you can take a look at it. And just always feel free to email me. I'm very responsive on the email, so people ask me lots of questions, so
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that's great.
Awesome. Erica, you really are the best, and we really appreciate your time. Caitlin, what things do we need to share as we wrap up this edition of Group Thinkers Live?
Well, if we have any more questions, we still have a few more minutes. A couple things that are just kind of housekeeping things. We have an upcoming session tomorrow about mid-major donors with Carla, and that'll be a really great session. If you haven't signed up for that session, you can sign up at rkdgroup.com/AW Think Tank. So if you're not already signed up, please go and sign up for that session. Also, there is a survey that you can fill out. It pops up immediately after the session. So once you exit, it should pop up for you. And please fill out that survey and include your address, because we're trying to send everyone a very special gift for attending. So please take the time to fill that out. But
Yeah.
if we have any more questions from the audience, we still have a few more minutes.
Throw your questions in there. Caitlin, I thought that the URL was Aw Think Tank, like Aw Think Tank. I've been saying it wrong the whole time. That was it.
AW for Animal Welfare
Oh,
Think
yeah,
Tank. I
that
felt like
makes sense
animal welfare
too.
was very long for a vanity URL.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot to spell out.
Any more questions from the audience?
And you'll folks, as you're spending time throughout the day, obviously we're going to communicate with you and follow up with these things afterwards with additional resources. I would also encourage you to make sure and pay attention to the social feeds from RKD Group, as well as Erica's, because whether or not that's through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, etc. There's quite a bit of content that we're putting out on a very regular basis that hits on these issues and other important challenges and trends that are happening in the nonprofit marketing landscape. So, feel free to find at RKD Group on any of the social platforms and throw those a follow.
Also, if you missed any of the sessions, they will all be recorded, and also they will live on that same landing page. So if you missed a session from Monday or Tuesday, or you want to share today's session, Friday session, they will all be uploaded there.
Yeah, all think tank. I'm not going to stop saying it. I'm going to keep saying
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
it.
All right.
All right. Well, we appreciate you checking out this this session and episode of Group Thinkers. We hope that it was beneficial for you. It's always enlightening and refreshing to be able to speak with Erica and to hear your expertise and advice. And so we wish you well and look forward to seeing you down the road.
Great. Hopefully in person one of these days, right? So yeah,
Yes,
good.
absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.